Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big show, it's one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. They hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clout. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them, they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to baratons too, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up. I done fed up on the dirty water, low pressure, want scream and tell somebody. Imagine 1500 US, and they're telling me super salary. I done fed up on the unemployment racism and the lie they say one Guyana. Cause when you look where the oil money going, circulate with one set of banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up.
Happy Palm Sunday, everyone. A pleasant good evening to you, and welcome to Over to You, a program for the people, by the people. Today, of course, is Sunday, the 29th day of March 2026. I welcome you all to this evening broadcast. I hope that you're continuing to have a very productive and pleasant weekend thus far. I encourage you all to please like tonight's program and share the link. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. Those in the broader Caribbean, North America, the United Kingdom, the continent of Africa, I welcome you. I welcome you. Australia, New Zealand, wherever it is that you're watching from, I welcome you this evening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, while you guys share the link, yes. While you guys share the link, I will go ahead and do this evening's roll call as normal. Yvonne Rodriguez, welcome to tonight's broadcast. Barbados is in the house. Sandra Hanover, the excellent freedom fighter, is here with me. So we're going to have some pace and power this evening. The Honorable Mr. Victor Ben is here also. That's more strength. Canada is in the house. Rhonda Tuesday is here. Darkus John is in the house. Miss Mary Figueroa, of course, from Canada, again, is in the house. Miss Pam Halls is here with us this evening. A pleasant good evening to Megnan Griffith, granddaughter, Miss Shondell Griffith. Welcome to the broadcast this evening. Miss Audrey Brown, good evening to you. Welcome to the broadcast. Navjo is in the house. Miss Hazel Johnson, more peace and power in the house. Miss Desiree Smart Felix, oh, what a measure of intelligence. Good to have you here this evening. Welcome to the broadcast. And she hails from Canada. Miss Karen Clark is in the house. Miss Siobhan McDonald, my good friend, it's good to see you here this evening. Good evening to you. Beatrice Selby is in the house, along with the Honorable Miss Maxine Monroe, who is here. Of course, more pace and power there. My brother Jason McDonald, who is going to, of course, bring his intellectual capabilities here this evening. So I look forward to his contribution this evening. Brenda Braithwaite, yes, it's good to see you, Miss Braithwaite. I hope that you're having a pleasant weekend. Miss Deslyn Wilson in the house by way of Victoria, the Forest Village. And many of you would know that that's a Forest Village purchased by our ancestors. So there's a lot of historical context behind that village. Shemi Benjamin, good to see you. Miss Ingrid King, welcome to tonight's broadcast. Yolanda Thomas, welcome. Good to see you here. Look forward to your contribution. Claudette Allen is in the house. Good evening to you. Penelope Hudson is in the house. Good to see you. Miss Sandra Sargent is here. Miss Marna Saul is here. Good evening to you both. Brother Carl Duncan is in the house. Phil Class is in the house. Good evening to you. Ingrid King is here. Good evening. Good evening. Miss Susan London is here in the house. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys so much for joining this evening. We're gonna just hit this for a quick hour. Lots to talk about. The flooding continue across Georgetown and along the coastline. Okay, look, I am not wanting to see, right, that if the coalition was in power today, there would be absolutely no flooding. This was catastrophic rainfall. But the fact of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, you are seeing so many clogged drains, okay, with a lot of plastic bottles and plastic material. You know, it's just lawlessness across the board. Okay, lawlessness across the board. We had 5 years with some massive budgets to clean up all these things, right? I'm not saying that we would not have had any flooding whatsoever, but I am saying it would have mitigated, the flooding quite a bit, right? We may have had some standing water here and there, but it wouldn't have been what we're seeing here now. You can't even wear long boots in certain areas because the water is just flowing right into the boots. It's ridiculous, right? And Georgetown is our main city. Look at Georgetown. We know that Georgetown is below sea level, but that's not the way it should look when we have, a tremendous amount of rainfall. And then you continue to put up the tall structures. And then the infrastructure is not in place, or proper sewage and all these type of things when you put up these tall structures. And understand, when you put up tall structures, they're going to sink, and they're going to sink rapidly. Because the soil is always soaked, it's below sea level. But of course, we want to build out Georgetown in 5 to 10 years for it to look like the United States of America or the skyline of New York City. Even the skyline of New York City, what you see now, it took years to build out all of that infrastructure. Because back in the 70s, back in the 70s, 80s, when you look at the New York skyline in that time, all you saw was the Woolworths Tower. That was the standout at that time. And that's one of the shorter skyscrapers in New York now. People wouldn't even consider that a skyscraper anymore because of the massive height of the new buildings. But yet we continue to build out Georgetown and, pour all this money into infrastructure while we continue to have a 60% poverty rate. And the thing about it, this infrastructure that is being built out, and the economic progress that you're seeing in the country, if you want to call it that, because it's difficult to call it economic progress, the economic framework of the country is not multi-ethnic. It's just not. I've gotten into this way now where I have to call things the way I see it. All right? Yes, Miss Deslin Wilson, Lusignan was flooded, Annandale was flooded. All along the coastline, we had flooding. But yet we're taking all the canals and turning them into drainers. So tell me, where is all this water going to be going when we turn all these canals into drainers? Where's the water going? Is there something special that we don't know about? Has the PPP engaged the opposition as to the reason why the canals along the coastline, many of them are becoming drainers? That's democracy, ladies and gentlemen. That's democracy right there. You know, many PPP supporters come out and talk about, you know, people don't like the PPP and all these type of things. Well, I'm going to say this. How could one like the PPP when the PPP is not for all Guyanese? Hmm? Yes, Miss Desiree Smart, Felix, yes. You could have stuff like dengue fever and all of these things coming out of that water. But again, not everybody that says that they have dengue fever, they have dengue fever. I'm not even going to get too deep into that. But yes, dengue fever can come out of that water. So many things, cholera amongst other things. That water is filthy. And parents should make sure that their kids are not playing in that water. It is filthy. There is sewage and everything mixed into that water. You know, it may look decent to the naked eye in certain areas, but there's a mixture of many things in that water. So Guyanese ought to be careful. Ringworm and all the different things. And I see some people got to take off their shoes and walk through that water barefooted. Isn't the sitting government in Guyana ashamed? They should be. They should be. Because it's disgraceful to see the condition of Georgetown. And to add to it, guys, to add more fuel to the fire, Guyanese are experiencing blackout for long period of time. For long periods of time, the Guyanese people are experiencing blackouts. What happened to gas to energy? When is it going to come online? 2050? Because every year is this year. And there's going to be such a reduction in your light bill once it come online. You build it. That's what the PPP does. They build up the hope of folks. And then they drop them in a barrel and deceive them. You know? They build your hopes up. And then they deceive you. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of work being done on the ground by the famous 12. Okay? The 12 disciples. They are doing an incredible job on the ground. And I am loving it. I am loving it. And I'm sure you guys are also. But I want to add a few more names to that. You know, I am very, very, very impressed with what I have been seeing from the Honorable Miss Simona Brooms. You know, and, you know, it's, to me, it's not a surprise, really, to me. But she is doing a wonderful job. Okay? And she's showing good leadership qualities in that she understands that she cannot get it all done by herself. It's way too much for her to be able to do alone. Therefore, she's trying to bring people together. Whether it is that she's going to have a dinner or what is it she's going to do to get people to the table. Right? Because it's about moving this thing forward. We cannot afford to posture in a stagnant position for too long. All right? Just now the 5-year cycle is going to come right back around and we're going to be back there again at elections. Right? And you got to be prepared. You got to prepare the people on the ground. And I believe that the Honorable Simona Brooms is doing an excellent job at that. But while she's moving through the highways and byways and preparing the people, it's not just about preparing them. People also have needs, right? So she does have to go to her pocket. You know, I got to give this woman tremendous credit. She does have to go to her pocket. Remember, we have 60% of all people in poverty. 35% in abject poverty. Well, it's 58, but I'm going to round it. I'm an accountant. I'm going to round that to 60. Because that measure could have missed a lot of people. And then we have an influx of Venezuelans also. So that add more fuel to the fire right there. Yes, Simone Blackman, I agree with you. She's a phenomenal person who thinks about the people and not filling her own pocket. The Honorable Simona Brooms is a fearless woman. She is fearless. There are so much threats on the ground across Guyana. She's a fearless person. She still go out and meet her people. And she's pulling along others with her. Miss Robin Simon worked the ground with her in Aslington. They were back and forth, making sure that they bring live pictures to us, amongst other things, and updates. When they got up the morning, whether they were prepared or not, they had to get out there, quick time. And then I want to give major kudos to the Honorable Member of Parliament, Dr. Dexter Todd. He got right in there, quickly, expeditiously, and inserted himself as the counsel for the family. All right? That's a measure of intervention, negotiation, resolution, and last but not least, leadership demonstrated by Dr. Todd. These are the things that is going to rebuild a strong and robust opposition. Because there's no way that people can see this type and this quality of work and deny it at the polls. So don't worry with PPP ministers walking around with long boots across communities, playing there, coming down to meet the people. Many of those communities, you should not have had to come with long boots to meet the people. Had you done the right thing, okay, and use the monies that were allocated for drainage and irrigation for drainage and irrigation, not some of it, but all of it. You had 5 years. You had 5 years. You had 5 different budgets. All right, your budget was $3.29 billion in 2020. 383.1 billion in 2021. 2022, 552.9 billion. 2023, 781.9 billion. 2024, 1.146 trillion. And 2025, $1.382 trillion. And of course, 2026, $1.558 trillion. That's a lot of money. So why should Guyanese still be experiencing this type of flooding along with blackouts along with water that comes from the top that can either look like different shades of coffee, an orange soda pop, and so many other things. Maybe a black cherry also. Why should Guyanese have to experience that? We have less than 1 million people. We should not even really be talking about poverty. But I am really hoping that we are able to build on the work being done by the 12 disciples and the likes of the Honorable Miss Simona Brooms, Miss Robin Simon, and others. We're able to build on that. And we're able to put some emphasis and put some effort into rebuilding a lot of the African communities across Guyana that would have been neglected. You see, people might want to say, well, Wayne, you're biased. I'm not being biased. I'm calling a spade a spade. Look at Victoria. Victoria is the first village that our ancestors would have purchased. Had this government had any respect at all for the African Guyanese, Victoria would have been a city on the East Coast by now. Look at it. Look at Victoria Sideline East and Victoria Sideline West. You can't even pass 2 cars there. I'm aware. Oh yes, I got the news live on the ground. I get everything live, everything I want. Okay? Everything I want. Now, I really wanna reach out here to parents. Parents of, specifically I'm talking about high school, but I believe it can be also looked at the primary school level. Look, this government is not doing a great job. That is a fact. Okay? It's a fact. All right? And look, there's a lot of factors in what I'm going to say. There's a lot of factors that contribute into what I'm going to say now. But I want to say to parents, and this may not apply to all the parents, but I believe that they would be able to glean something from what I am going to say now. You need to believe in your children. It's tough. Don't give up on your children. All right? You need to believe in them. You need to support them. 100%. Not 50%. Not, I'm not sure of what he's going to become. All right? Let's support them 100%. Now, from what I would have gotten from speaking to a few teachers, and again, tonight, I want to say thank you to all the teachers. Thank you to the entire teaching fraternity in Guyana. Because you guys are public servants and you're grossly underpaid. Okay? You are grossly undervalued by a government that does not understand your responsibility. Your responsibility is to educate the nation and prepare them for tomorrow and today. Okay? That's your responsibility. And I will tell you guys this. Based on what I've seen, you guys have executed close to flawlessly. All right? There may be some teachers in there who are not as strong as they should be. And I'll say this to you. Pick yourself up. Okay? Execute your duties. I know that it can be very, very difficult because you're grossly underpaid. All right? But what you are showing loyalty to your students. You are showing loyalty to their parents. And you are showing loyalty, not to government, to your country, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Forget government. Government is not doing enough for you. So I will not include government in this. All right? Now, let's pivot to the parents, back to the parents. Now, from what I've gotten in some of the schools, ladies and gentlemen, and you may not be aware of this, but there's a lot of stuff that is provided for students. Geometry sets, textbooks, to some extent, exercise books. And I have gotten snapshots of the textbooks. They're not the best written textbooks. Let me be honest with you guys. All right? They're not the best written material. I would know what good writing looks like. And when you're presenting, what it should look like. Okay? They're not well written. But I'll say one thing. In going through the snippets that I would have gotten, I believe that students would be able to glean something from reading those textbooks and applying them. You may not, you will not, not even may not, you will not get full scope on quite a few of the topics, right? But you will get something from it. And from what I've been told by multiple teachers, the textbooks are sitting there taking dust. The children are challenging them in school, all right, about being able to have a successful life and have a successful career without, a good education. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, can that happen? Yes, absolutely. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Would I recommend that? Absolutely not. I believe in education, and I will always believe in education. Okay? Because when you walk into a room and you have your certificate and your receipts to show, all right, your name is in the hat. But when you walk in the room and your answer is, well, I had a hard life, and people don't want to hear those sad stories. Okay? They are looking for people that are ready to work. So I want you to encourage your children. And this has nothing to do with government. It has nothing to do with government. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to sit here and watch our children fail, okay? And watch them not achieve the very best that they can because they are down and they're not being supported. All right? Your East is out. The children are off from school. Try your best, even if you have to go in to work an hour late. Show up to school with your child. Check in. Make sure that the child is doing what he or she needs to be doing. All right? And to any student who come across this broadcast, it is not time for you to now be challenging your teacher. At least get through your high school education. And if it is that you choose not to go to university, which I would not recommend, okay? If you choose to not go to university, then so be it. You may want to pick up a trade. And you know what? I wouldn't even say I would not recommend, because that there's certain kids, that you can't really get them to go into the whole academia. You can't get them to do that. They'll go through high school and then they want to get into their trade. And that's fine. You could earn an excellent living, welding, being an electrician, among so many other, handy, trades. All right, getting into woodworks, construction, right? A lot of different things. But we need to start encouraging our children. All right. I know that they have social workers and these type of things that they're out and about looking to make sure that kids go to school and stuff like that. But I'm urging the APNU on a party level to start looking into such things because these children are our future. Okay? And they can't have enough knowledge. They could never have enough knowledge. Knowledge is always good. All right? And remember, some of these kids are going to be a part of the voting bloc come 2030. So here's another way that you can be very impactful, in getting them along. They will not forget what you would have done for them. All right? So parents, let's just remember that charity begins at home. Love and support your children. It's your child. It's your children. Support them. All right? Coming from me, yes, it might be good. Coming from us here, it might be a great thing. But oh, it's so impactful when it comes from your own parent. And then we can just be the topping on the cake to complete the process. All right? So, I just wanted to point that out. And going forward on the program, I am going to be announcing a few public servants that are being recognized. They have been they've been picked out, pointed out as excellent servants of the people. And starting next week, I am going to start giving their names out. Some one of their colleagues would have selected them and sent it on to me to give them a call out for excellent service. And I will start with that next week, and we'll just take a quick 5 to 10 minutes out of the program to recognize at least 2 individuals per program. All right. You try to call into the villages across Guyana, there's always blackout. It's always blackout. That's what our people are living through over, day after day, night after night in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. All right. We need to really get into the habit, of rebuilding our villages, man. And that's going to need tremendous leadership. And I believe that those 12 MPs are showing that they're the ones for the job. But the 12 MPs, you can't spread them throughout the whole 83,000 square miles, right? You're going to have to start using the councillors. And a good example of good work by a councillor, we had him here a few weeks ago, Mr. Dexter Fort. That's a hard worker. He works and he fights. He works and he fights. And one of the things that my good brother Dexter Fort would have said is that we're not going to get this done by talking a good, game. All right? We got to put action behind our talk. And that's what he does. That's what you see from the Honorable Miss Simona Brooms. And that's what we're seeing from the 12 disciples. So I want to say to all party members of the APNU, man, you guys need to come into the room, okay? And let the work begin. Come into the room, pick up your tools, join the 12, and let's get this work done. All right? We cannot sit down right now. There's no time to sit down and go back and forth. This person, that person. No, this is time for work. All right? We got to show that we have the ability to learn. Everyone would have seen what happened in 2025. All right? Too much talk. And what happened? Cat ended up eating all the dinner. All right? So we got to pivot from that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just pause a minute to go through your comments. Beverly Ann Romaine, my good sister. Again, Canada is in the house. Okay, Lyndon Forbes, Burnham, budgeted money. Burnham budget money was on drainage and irrigation. Well, Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham, and his government placed great emphasis on drainage and irrigation over the years. All right? You will still have it where the canals, when we had massive rainfalls, they would raise high. The water would rise. That's okay. That's normal, right? But here was the thing that really stands out with Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham. Where you have the cocos, right? He would have that area that goes out towards the ocean. He would have that dredge. So you would have a channel. And that's where also the fishermen would come in with their boats when water go out, because that channel would still be filled with water that you could get your boat in ashore, right? And look, we're living in the 21st century, right? I know everybody talks about the pump. But let me tell you something. You want water to go down? There's nothing like the coca doors. There is nothing like the coca doors. You open up the coca doors if the tide is out, and that water would go out so quickly. All right? But look, what can I say? Incompetence is incompetence, right? You should have specialists who specializes in building the coca doors, building out the coca, the old model, and you run the pump right around the side. You design it a way where you run the pump right around the side, and you still have the coca door. Because if the tide is out, you open the door, the water goes out, you don't have to use the pump, right? You're saving energy right there. You don't have to use the pump, right? But incompetence, the guys are just not smart. All right, they're not smart. And then now we're getting rid of a lot of the canals, and we're putting in little drains. So the few canals that are going to be left, my thing is, how much water are they going to take on, and would be able to take on, and what's the strategy? What's the long-term strategy, okay, to handle drainage and irrigation across the coastline, especially? These things needed to be discussed at least with the opposition, so that we can know what is happening. We can know what their intentions are. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why I can tell you this. I would never favor the PPP. Okay? Because what the PPP is demonstrating right now is that they are comfortable with a one-party state. They are comfortable with making all the decisions, right? They criticize Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham so much, ladies and gentlemen, but they find it convenient to still be using the winner take all. If y'all were so smart and so innovative, why are we still doing winner take all politics? We are doing winner take all politics because you guys are thieves. That's why we're doing winner take all politics. I am saying that. You guys are thieves. You've proven to be that. Your sitting installed president would have concocted with the leader of the Win party to defraud, and would have defrauded the Guyana Revenue Authority. No charges was filed. Nothing was done. No investigation by the police. Nothing. You guys are thieves. And the Guyanese people do not deserve that. And I know a lot of your supporters, they see what you do and they ignore it. But the day is coming when the people who spend and who enrich y'all is going to start holding their monies in their pockets. Oh yes, they will be taught. And if they have the ability to learn, they will learn. Back into your comments, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Mary Figueroa, Victoria Village will always be your home. Annette Bissessar Robinson, I live in Guyana with the Barnum government. Never a flooding. Village council used to dig those drains and we had proper drainage. Look, Lyndon Forbes Samson Barnum may not have been perfect. Oh, but he was damn good. Oh, he was damn good. We all have flaws. Like I said, would have said before, we all have flaws. No one is perfect. No one. Shondell Griffith, we have to continue experiencing all these things because we have a selfish and greedy government in power. They only care for themselves, friends, and family. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the people that are getting rich. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the reasoning why I say that people get wealthy impoverishing others. Because when you impoverish people, all right, that means that you prevent monies and other things from getting to them. And you instead, split that money between your friends, family, and your favorites. That's it. A few get rich. And the masses, they punish. But remember, you heard the word I just used. Masses. When you use masses, that means that there are more people, more poor people than rich people. And boy, oh boy, if they decide to rise up. If you guys continue to do what you're doing to them with the Guyana police force and they decide to rise up, if you continue to oppress them and they decide to shut the country down, yes, shut it down. It's theirs. All right. Nobody's going to come and shoot them down. Nobody's not going to come and shoot them down. Nobody's going to say we're sending in troops because the people of Guyana is a threat to our oil infrastructure. We don't give a crap. No. That's our country. We don't care what government you negotiated with. You negotiated with a set of terrorists. That's what you're doing. You are negotiating with a criminal syndicate. That's what you're doing. So don't give us nonsense. The people of Guyana don't agree with what is happening to them. And then you rent a crowd. You walk with your own crowd in your handbag. And you're gonna you sit down in Ramveld. Saying but you talking to people. What can you tell the people? What can you say to people that you have deceived over and over and over again? You think that $99,950 satisfy the needs of the normal Guyanese? You think that $99,950 satisfy the needs of our pensioners? Do you really believe that? When are you going to pay our nurses and our teachers equitably. When are you going to pay members of our Guyana police force? And listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. It needs to come up for discussion where the name of the Guyana police force becomes the Guyana Police Service. Understand this. They are there to serve the people. And you must have a heart of servitude if you want to be in that job. Not a beat up, heist up, knock down, kick up attitude. Bullying attitude. Abusive. When one wants to serve as a police officer in Guyana, he should be prepared to follow those standing orders at all times. Work by the book. You agree to your salary. Take your salary and walk. Don't be shaking down the minibus operators and everybody, the private car owners and anybody. You see a little infraction, hand out a ticket. Don't say, hey, I'm going to give you a $5,000 ticket. But if you give me a $2,500, I will rescind the ticket and not write it. You're a thief. Stop shaking down the people. Work honestly. Like the normal people of Guyana got to go and work every day. What exempts you? Ladies and gentlemen, we all here have work to do. We got a country to straighten out. And that we will do together as a collective. Those ones who want to be out there glorifying themselves, sit them down on the side. Because they're not going to serve any purpose in this fight. This is a real fight. This is not time to play. I'll go back into the comments again. Miss Hazel Johnson is saying that kids are drinking alcohol. And yes, some of them use drugs in school. There's a lot of vaping going on, ladies and gentlemen. There's an overwhelming amount of vaping that's going on. And from what I've understood, all right, and I know people are going to let me know whether I'm saying if I'm correct or not, that the vape is being purchased at the Chinese. All I'm going to say, whether so or not, I'm going to just say this. Don't bring in your stuff to damage the brain of our children and possibly kill them off. No, don't do it. Don't do it. And I would say to all Guyanese, if you find a Chinese store that is in your village and they're doing that, boycott that business completely. Boycott them. Do not come into our country and act reckless. Yes, our country. The indigenous people and the African people were there first. And not all the indigenous tribes were there before the Africans. Some of them. Not all. Thank you for your comment, Miss Hazel Johnson. You know, there's going to be peaks and valleys in this fight. But we have to stand our ground. Okay? And we got to stand our ground now. We are giving too much ground. We are giving too much ground. Look, I went through the comments for yesterday's program. And I want to make this clear to the entire opposition. I see constant comments regarding a new voters list and biometrics. That seems to have run a little bit cold. All right? And it cannot always be we cannot always be dependent on the 12 and people like the Honorable Simone Broom to highlight that. Okay? We need others to pick up that fight. There needs to be a team in place just to address that. Because it needs to happen. Look at the budgets that are passing. Look at the size of the budgets that are passing. Why is it that we cannot get electoral reform? We need to be pushing for electoral reform in Guyana. Why is it that Claudette Singh is still behind the desk on the job? What are we doing? She is incompetent. If you ask me, I would want to review every case that Claudette Singh presided over. She's a crook. She's a flat-footed hustler. And she would have hustled the people of Guyana and stripped them of their democracy. I'll take away the word crook. And I'll say that she's disingenuous. She's disingenuous. She has shown herself to be biased in just voting with the PPP commissioners 100%. How could that be? That's not consistent. That's consistently being biased. Are you telling me that the PPP commissioners were always right? Father Singh, go sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a quick moment here to wish my sister, Miss Shondell Griffith, a happy birthday. I hope that you're enjoying your day thus far and that you live to see many, many, many more. Yes, I did forget that it was your birthday today. So thank you for the kind reminder. Yes, Mr. Bender, this is a good comment. I think some do, but there's a lot that don't. Mr. Ben wants trades to have high-level certification, just like the academia. I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. Just peeling through your comments, guys. We have 2 minutes remaining here today, but I want to thank all of you guys for joining on this Palm Sunday. Taking your time out of your busy schedule, to join tonight's program. We appreciate it. This is a fight. And listen, without you guys, there's no fight. Okay? Without you guys, there's no programs. All right? Without your support, we cannot be here. But we are here. All right? We are here. Miss Deborah Payson said, definitely, Wayne, those MPs are working assiduously. Yes, I agree. I agree, Miss Pearson. Yes, Miss Beverly Ann Romaine said we need to start fighting for a new voters list and biometrics. It is needed. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. we will not be able to win an election in Guyana unless there's a new voters list accompanied by biometrics. All right? Whatever it is that that the PPP has, that list has been doctored, okay, outside of Guyana, and it is set up in a way that the PPP can win an election in like 4 or 5 different ways. Okay? So that would not be useful for the opposition. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States, the East Coast of the United States, and 8 p.m. in Guyana. I want to thank all of you for joining. And of course, we will get back together next Saturday. That's if I'm not on at some point during the week. Okay? We will get back together next Saturday. Again, guys, as you commute and as you walk, please look out for yourselves. All right? Because I don't know how some people get their license and what they're doing on the road from time to time. I've seen some silly accidents. All right? Please be careful in the highways and the byways. And the automobile and minibus operators, the large trucks operators, guys, don't talk to no cell phone and all of this stuff. Have a hands-free device if it is that you need to talk. And if you're talking to somebody, please just listen and keep your eyes on the road. All right? It's too much bloodshed on the roads across Guyana. It is reckless. All right? We're acting like guinea pigs. Let's start having a measure of respect for each other's lives. Okay? Let's take care of one another. Let's demonstrate love one for another. Until next Saturday, I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves and family. I'll see you next Saturday. Over to you. Good night. Don't forget, there is this J-Cut annual Mother's Day boat ride. Sunday, May 10th, 2026. All right. Boat is leaving from the Brooklyn Army Terminal. Boarding time 6:30 p.m. sharp. Sailing time 7:30 p.m. sharp. All right. All top DJs on board. Also, this program is brought to you compliments of Benchop Consultancy, Immigration, and Law. They can be reached at 917-714-1082. I thank Benchop Consultancy, Immigration, and Law for picking up sponsorship for all Over to You programs. Again, I love you. I love you. I love you. Good night. Over to you.